Hey guys, I'm back. That didn't take long. Okay, my bad. I've gotten some pretty quick feedback from folks. For those of you who watched the last video, I just came on and did a live quickly about budgeting and why it is so important, and specifically for today, why seasonality and adding seasonality in your budget is so important. And I got to the end of the video and I said, man, there was something else I was going to mention and I can't remember. And yeah, feedback was quick. And I did ask for feedback. I do appreciate it, good and bad. So good stuff there. So the comments, and actually one of them was very blunt and abrupt, which I'm fine with, by the way, but it was how to implement it. So people said, okay, great, I get it. Seasonality, I need to put it into my budget. How do I figure out my seasonality? And for those of you who understand that, don't worry about it. You can skip through the rest of the video. I'm just going to explain how to calculate that if you're unfamiliar. But again, I mentioned this is something we cover in Pathway to More Profits program. It's MrBizProgram.com. Check that out if you're interested. But here's how you do it. And this will be a little challenging to explain without the a whiteboard or a pad to mention it on, or to write it out on. But if you can picture this in your head, kind of a spreadsheet or a sheet of paper, if you want to do it manually, down the left side, so left column, you would have your years. So go back as far as you can. I shouldn't say as far as you can. Get the last 2 or 3 years. So you might have 2018, 2017, 2016, right? Down the left column. Across the top, you're going to have January through December. And what you do is you just go and fill in what your revenue was by month for those last 3 years. So whatever it was in January of 2016, February 2016, all the way across for all 12 months of 16. Do the same thing for 2017. And then, of course, finally do the same thing for 2018. So then what you do is you add up the total revenue for the 3 years. And that's the total for 3 years. Pretty self-explanatory there, right? Duh. But then you go through each month and you add up the months. So you would go to January and add up January 16 plus January 17 plus January of 18. Now, here's the key part of how to get that seasonality and make sure you've got a pretty good indication of it, is you go back and you say, okay, so my January revenues for these 3 years were, I'll make it up, let me see, I'll make the math easy for myself. Let's say they're $1 million. And your total revenue for the 3 years was 10 million. So what you do is you take that total for January, the 1 million, divide it by the total for the 3 years. So that way you're getting an average of the 3 years at 10 million. So that's 10%. So what that tells you is that on average over the last 3 years, 10% of your annual revenue is in January. And I carry that bad boy out of decimal. The more accurate, the better. And sometimes I don't even round it. If I'm using a spreadsheet and I'm going to calculate it on an ongoing basis, I go ahead and use that and carry it out, how I let it carry out as far as it wants. I don't display all those decimals, of course, and then you go back and do the same thing for February. So you add up February 16, February 17, February 18, divide it by the total revenue, total annual revenue for 16, 17, 18. And that'll give you, on average, for the last 3 years, what percentage of your revenue came in February. So what you do with those percentages, specifically for revenue budgeting, and expense is a whole other ball of wax and another animal and a much longer topic. So I'll try to keep this brief here. And I just realized I think I've been covering up the microphone, so hopefully the audio was decent. So the other piece of that is to... So let's say your goal for the year for 2019, you say you're doing 2019 budget, using that same example where 10% over the last 3 years of your revenue was in January, you just take your annual goal and you multiply it by what January is, and that'll tell you what you should have for January. You go through that for each month and then you add it all up. Now, what should happen is, if you did it correctly, is when you add up January through December, it's going to equal your annual goal. So let's say in this example you wanted to have, I'll make it easy again, 2.4 million for the year. So on a straight line basis, that's going to be 200 grand, right? But again, we're not doing that. We're doing seasonality. So using our example of 10% in January, we would have 240,000 of our revenue would hit in January, right? 10% of our annual goal of 2.4 gets us to 240,000. So got some funky shadows going on here. Anyway. So that's how you do that. So thanks for the feedback from several of you who watched the last video and said, okay, this is great information. How the heck do I implement it? So hopefully that helps. Again, don't hesitate to leave feedback. I'll help any way I can. So hopefully that's helpful. Again, if it's something you're interested in, go out to MrBizProgram.com. Check out what we're doing there. It might be helpful information for you. Might be interesting. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, guys. I appreciate the feedback as always, and we will talk again soon. Thanks.